when we were in the car, I remember talking to Brian. I was like, I just feel like we failed this season.
Yeah, because your perfect story is, okay, maybe we had a difficult season and in the middle of it got rough, but by the end of it, we learned what we had to learn and we ended the season beautifully. And what I was saying is that what if it took the entirety of that season to get to the point where we learned everything that we needed to learn?
Yeah.
And it's okay to label it, that was a failed season for us. We did not show up the way we needed to show up. But what if, because of it, it changes the trajectory of our marriage? Let's go there.
So, like a really bad mom. Quote unquote, I'm tired of people in my race, so I need to find me somebody white. This is how I knew that Brian
Don't do it.
was going to be a great physical partner.
Don't tell that. Welcome to the Let's Get Deep podcast, where we share stories about our lives that most people would never.
There is a topic that I wanted to talk about and bring up. So we've never talked about this, but honestly, last year was really, really interesting. And I kind of want to see what people think about this, because I think we realized a lot about ourselves and about our capacity last year that was pretty intense.
2023 was not our worst year as a married couple. It was not our best year. And I think that there were things that you and I had to process privately, which we do a lot of stuff publicly. We talk about a lot of things publicly. I think this was a conversation that we chose very intentionally to hold private until we had fully processed and learned from, to now go public with that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I guess we're doing that now.
I guess now's the time. And that conversation is about the Ironman. There was a lot that happened in 2023. I did an Ironman.
Which
fine.
Brian
Half
destroyed.
Ironman.
You did a half Ironman, but you freaking killed it. You did absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I still talk you up all the time about it, but it was difficult.
It was a very hard season. And you were pregnant during that time.
I was pregnant.
You were like 4 months pregnant or something?
4 months pregnant.
So my friend Curtis calls me and says, hey, I'm doing a half Ironman and you're going to do it with me. I basically, in very polite terms, told him, heck no, that'll never happen. I've never run over 3 miles in a row in my life. So I come home and I tell you, hey, guess what this friend of mine, this joker, said to me. And I'm like telling it to you as if it's like hilarious. Like there's 0% chance. And the first thing you say to me, you look at me and you go,
I think you should do it.
and I thought you were insane. I thought you were in cahoots.
I was 3 months pregnant at the time. We had a lot of stuff going on, but nothing crazy. And I just knew, when I tell you, I just knew that I envisioned this way, that we were going to be busy. I was going to be, having pregnancy. Like I had this thought that we are just going to show people that we could handle all this stuff and we could kill it. And I told Brian that I still believe that the purpose of it was for Brian to see like he could do anything with God and us. Like we could do this together.
Yeah, you wanted me to test the boundaries of my thinking and what's possible.
Yes. And I think that you struggled with that at the time. I think you struggled with your purpose. I think you struggled with a lot stuff that was going on with your job at the time. And you just were trying to figure out, what is God doing with my life? And I felt that spiritually, I think you needed to learn how to lean on him more and fully trust him. And I think that was extremely hard for you.
That was a tough season spiritually. I think I was doing a lot of things on my own power and strength, and I had gotten away from leaning on him, like you said.
Yeah.
Gotten away from trusting that he would take care of me, and that even though I would be in an uncomfortable position, that he knows what's best. And I started just to do things, make decisions on my own, and get away from that. To your point, you wanted me to test the limits, and I think we were a little crazy for wanting to test the limits of what I'm capable of while you were 3 to 4 months pregnant and while it was a very busy season for us.
Do I think that other people could have did it? Yeah. I just think that, honestly.
Do I think we could do it? Yes, we could have done it.
I think we could have done it.
We didn't.
And it was actually a very hard season for me and you. And there's a difference between a hard season and we overcame versus a hard season and we failed that season.
I think it was one of those times where we were not admitting to ourselves that that season was a failure all the way through
Yeah.
until the very end. I think it was probably like 2 weeks before the actual race that we had a very long conversation and we finally looked at each other and we're like, I think we failed this one.
Yeah, I think it's hard to have a season where you want it to succeed so bad. You want it to work and you want to be the people that said, nah, we did that. We handled that and killed it. It was hard. It was difficult, but we did it. And you're trying to find this line between, okay, are we having a hard, is this just a hard moment or are we failing? Because Brian and I were not seeing eye to eye
Yep.
and it got busier.
On 4 flights in a matter of 4 weeks, like during that time.
I had my baby shower. I was in my third trimester. I
Yeah,
really should not have been going out.
You were 8 months when you flew down to Texas to do
Yeah.
the race with me.
It was insane.
8 months pregnant. Who does that?
Child, I don't know what I was thinking about. I'll be honest. I have no idea what I was thinking about. And then we were invited to Washington, D.C., to do the Easter stroll at the White House, all in a matter of like 4 or 5 weeks.
So let's go back. We decided to do this, and it was during the winter, and the training process was a very intense process.
Yeah.
And that's specifically what put that pressure on us. Just simply from a time perspective, I had to devote probably an average of 2 hours a day to training. But it's not just the 2 hours, also getting ready, doing the meal preps, doing, because I had to eat like 5-6 meals a day.
And I had to watch the kids while he was training. It was hard. And I think that I'm a person that when I see it, I'm like, okay, I got this. But then when it actually happens, I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot for me. I don't think this was God's plan.
But also
I'm confused.
this pregnancy was also more difficult.
It was.
Than Aza's. So you were going through more with your body. You were going through more mentally. Keep in mind, for those of you that don't know, we had obviously you heard that we went through both children through an IVF process, but we also had lost a baby right before we got pregnant with Elijah. Mm-hmm. And we had that baby naturally. So that was a whole spiritual journey that you were still on at that point.
Yeah.
And you were still recovering from and recuperating from. So you put all of these things into like what I would call like a pressure cooker and it put weight on us. It put pressure on our marriage to the point where we both found ourselves in a position where we felt like we were sacrificing everything for each other, but not feeling that the other person was sacrificing for us. And it's like, how are those two dynamics possible together? It seems like they're diametrically opposed.
Yeah, I feel like, and I even remember the conversation that we had where we were like trying to show each other that we were sacrificing.
Yeah.
Like we were going through our calendars. I was saying, I am good. I am trying to say this, but these are my boundaries. These are where I just cannot do it with me being pregnant, with me doing these things. And you were like, okay, I'm trying to understand that, but I need to do these things. I need to do this. And we were being so like, it felt like we were just hitting a wall with each other during that season. And coming to the place where, like you said, at the end, we failed that season. And I was struggling with that because I was looking at this as we were supposed to succeed. And it made me question a lot. It made me question, what really can we handle? Like, what really can we do? And hindsight being 2020, we were doing a lot and we should commend ourselves for even trying to do that.
Yeah, we didn't give ourselves as much grace as we probably should have, to be fair. But still, do you think that we were just in a place where we thought we were invincible and we could do anything, and that was a reality check that we can't do everything?
I think that, I'm gonna be honest, I think that I cared about, like, if we're supposed to be able to handle these things, and we talk about how we handle these things, and we have these tools. Why didn't we do it? Why didn't we handle it well? And sometimes there's a difference between a hard season, we jump up, and I think a lot of times we have hard seasons and we bounce up. But when I feel like we failed a season, like we failed it.
But this was the crazy part. When we say fail, during that period, it's not like we were arguing with each other. We weren't arguing a lot. We weren't angry at each other. We weren't having fights with each other. We were having impasses with one another.
We did have one big fight.
No, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
That was rough, boy.
We'll
I
talk
was
about
like,
that.
well, fight me, not physical fight. I want to make that clear. We had a huge argument. We rarely have a huge argument where it gets intense, but we had a huge argument.
Barring that one, though, a lot of it was just stress and feeling misunderstood, feeling unappreciated,
Which boiled up to that.
Which boiled to that point. But I remember there was a point where we looked at each other and I was even saying, like, babe, do you realize, like, I don't think we're mad at each other, and we're both really trying so hard to make each other happy in this season, but it almost feels impossible. Like, there's just not enough time in the day to devote time for one another, support each other with the kids, support what I need to do for training, to do our job, to run our business, all these different components. It just didn't feel possible at that point.
It was. And not to say it was impossible, but it was impossible for us at the time.
So how did it get to the point of having that argument?
I think it was what I said. I felt like we got to a boiling point. Like, we talked with our therapist. I remember we talked with our therapist and we were like, okay, why don't we make sure that we show each other how we're sacrificing? So in that conversation, we were working through our schedules, trying to figure out the baby shower, the travel plans, your training, and then you going to Atlanta. He wanted to go to Atlanta to train for a week.
Yeah, by myself.
By himself.
She would be by herself
so I would
with
be
the
with
kids.
the kids, and I did get help. But at nighttime, it was just me and the kids. So it was insane. Yeah. And I think that it was a boiled down point of like, we are trying to handle it. And it was to the point where we're talking to each other. At this point, I'm going off. That is so like not like me to be going off. Like, I'm just like, I'm tired of this. I'm sick of it. And then Brian was like, well, I'm tired of this. I'm trying here. And then we just had to leave each other. We're like, all right, we can't talk like this.
It definitely started to become an unhealthy conversation. And I just think our emotions were so invested in what we were doing. And Lexi and I are very big on making sure that we never choose something over our marriage. And it got to the point we were starting to question, like, are we choosing this thing over our marriage?
Yeah.
Because our marriage is struggling right now.
Yeah.
In reality, like, it was struggling.
It was hard.
It was very hard. It was very taxing. And I think we were at the point where we had to ask ourselves, are we going to be willing to make a decision to walk away from something this big in order to save us? And are we in a position that needs to require that sacrifice?
Yeah. That was the huge part. And that's my question. Do you think that all of that was worth it for the Ironman?
I do.
Well.
Do you?
I don't know.
I'll explain my part. Do you think it was worth it?
I think, and I know what you're going to say.
Don't tell me what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. And I think, could we have found another way to figure that out? I don't know. I think that it was, and I will say, because of what I know how you feel about it, and I know that made a huge difference, but it's hard to say yes and no. It's hard to say yes and no to me. I'm be honest. It's hard to say yes or no.
So I'm the type of person that I say yes to this. Here's why. Because the level and the degree of difficulty of that season for us, it uncovered things that were underneath and sub-level for us in our character, in our composition. Because I believe, and our pastor always says, that pressure on someone reveals who they truly are, right? I feel that was a level of pressure that we had not experienced before together. And so what that pressure did was it brought out certain things, some of it was ugly, that needs to be refined for the long term of our marriage, for
Yeah.
the benefit of the entirety of our relationship. It was a positive thing that we were able to uncover things that needed to be uncovered, that we could address, that we could learn from, that we could build our character around, that we could learn how to, the next time something like that happens, whether it be voluntary or involuntary, now we have better understanding of one another, understanding of ourselves, and better tools to get through those seasons. And I believe that sometimes in life, you have to go through that level and degree of challenge to get those things out. And I am for, if we have to go through it, let's go through it once.
Now
That's
that's
my
a belief.
biggest thing.
That's my belief. I do believe that. I will say that I'll never forget the conversation we had in the car, and it changed my whole perspective because I was down and out. I was like, "We're gonna go on this Ironman. I'm just gonna feel like sunk. Like I'm just gonna feel like we accomplished nothing." To be
You
honest, I
honestly didn't want
felt
to go. You didn't want to go anymore.
there was a level where I didn't even want to go because I didn't feel like I was needed anymore. And I felt that there was a level of resentment towards it. I had resentment towards it
Yeah.
because I didn't, Brian kind of admitted like he did not really get the spiritual like connection that you were hoping for.
I got the
And
physical one. You know, there was two components. We wanted me to learn how to break past physical barriers and mental barriers of what I thought was possible. Through the training process, I learned more about myself physically and mentally than I ever had before. And I did get that out of it.
Yeah.
But spiritually, relying on God, leaning on God through that process, I was still not grabbing that.
yeah. And I think that's what hurt probably the most for me is I was hoping that we would just be closer. Like we would get to this place of like, man, we did this together and we didn't. And when we were in the car, I remember talking to Brian. I was like, I just feel like we failed this season. And Brian was like, what if after this season we learned so much about each other and we learned what happened and how we can love each other more, how we can be there for one another, how we can support each other, how I need to show up for you, how I can value you, how I can appreciate you. If all of that, and you thought it was supposed to be in the middle of it, but if it was at the end, was it still worth it? And I had to think about that.
Yeah, because your perfect story is, okay, maybe we had a difficult season and in the middle of it got rough, but by the end of it, we learned what we had to learn and we ended the season beautifully. And to your point,
We didn't end the season. We started a new season.
no. That's what you wanted.
Oh, that's what I wanted. Yeah, yeah.
And what I was saying is that what if it took the entirety of that season to get to the point where we learned everything that we needed to learn?
Yeah.
And it's okay to label it, that was a failed season for us. We did not show up the way we needed to show up. But what if, because of it, it changes the trajectory of our marriage? What if our marriage from that point forward went to a new level and a new height because of what we're now implementing from the things that we learned? And I was willing to sacrifice that season for that. I don't know if you were.
Honestly, I would say that after that season, it became one of the most beautiful seasons of our marriage.
I would say the second part of this past year was probably some of the happiest moments and seasons that we've been in our marriage.
It is true. Nothing happened that was dramatic to make it like this, except we learned and we grew.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
The valuing you part was one of the biggest pieces that I took away from it. Learning what sacrifice looks like, and also just learning how to communicate where you are without blaming the other person for being the reason why.
Yeah.
And I say that because, to our point earlier, we were both giving everything we had to give
Yeah.
for one another. Like, if we looked at our schedules, I was proactively telling Lexi, if there's any free moment in my week, I will give you me time. I will watch the kids.
Yeah.
I want you to go and get me time. I'm doing everything I can possibly do to give you the mental break, the time with me, whatever. But it just didn't feel like there was literally enough time in the day.
There was no time.
And then you're like, I'm doing everything to sacrifice for you to have this moment. I'm watching the kids, I'm making meals, I'm doing the business, I'm doing this, that, and the other. And it's all for you to have this moment. by the way, which you didn't have spiritually, right? So there's that resentment, but we're
Yeah.
both sacrificing. And it's okay to say and learn how to communicate that I feel deprived, but it's not your fault
Yeah.
that I feel deprived.
Yeah.
It is circumstantial. And I think we didn't understand that. We
didn't
didn't
understand
get that
how
it was circumstantial and it wasn't relational.
Yeah. And we took everything personal.
Yeah.
We took everything personal.
There was a lot of blame that
I,
went around.
yeah. And I am glad. I am glad that I look at us and I look at where we've been, and I can honestly say we are in a better place because of it. And I struggle with that, but at the end of the day, that's what I want. It's what I wanted. It's not exactly how I envisioned it to be, but this is exactly what I wanted.
So let's talk about the next part, because the next part was Lexi and I have this conversation. And it's a good conversation in the car, hour-long conversation about season and learning from it. And then the time comes for us to go down to Texas. And our eldest daughter, Asa, gets very, very sick.
Oh my gosh. I was like, I forgot that part. Yes.
So Lexi's like, where are we going with this?
I was like,
what happened after that? I thought it was just happy.
No, yes. We did get to a better place by Texas. But then our oldest daughter,
Eldest daughter,
Bridgerton, our oldest daughter, Asa, ends up getting sick. We thought that it was just a quick 24 hours.
The night before we left.
The night before we left. Yeah.
She was supposed to come down with us to Texas.
Yeah. And they said it was going to be a 24-hour thing. And so we both were debating back and forth, what should we do? Should I stay? Should I go with Brian? What should I do? And my mom's, everybody, we have a huge support system. I want to say that. We have an amazing support system. And I rely on my support system heavy. And I am a new mom. I want to first say that. I'm a new mom. I don't always know what to do in situations like this.
And this was a very hard, I want you to give understanding to why it was such a hard decision. Because some people would be like, absolutely stay with your daughter. Other people would be like, absolutely go support your man because you have support who can take care of her. So why was it hard for you?
I think it was hard because I didn't know what to do. And I was listening to my moms, and my moms were really supportive of me wanting to go. And I said, I really don't know if I should go. But they were like, the doctor said it's a 24-hour bug. She's already feeling better. It's going to be okay. And long story short, it was not okay.
But we didn't find that out until we already were in Texas.
By the time we were in Texas, we found out she was not okay. And she got dehydrated. Severely. And she had to stay in the hospital for 3 nights.
It was like 5 nights.
No.
It was a while.
It wasn't 5 nights, was it? No.
I think the day we got back was like the day she got back from the hospital. So probably 4.
4 nights. And honestly, I cried every night. It was hard to get back. It wasn't easy to get back. And I kept trying to figure out, should I go? Should I stay with Brian? Brian's really been struggling, just trying to get ready for the race and try to get ready for this triathlon, which he's been training for
6 months.
6 months. And then, there weren't many flights out. He didn't really feel comfortable with me going by myself. Like, it was a lot of things that were happening. And to this day, I feel like after everything, I feel like I should have went back.
Let's talk about why you feel that, though. And I'll share my perspective of what you've talked with me about is that you felt okay about your decision. It was a very tough decision.
I don't know if I felt okay about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I felt okay about it.
I know you're wrestling with it, but I thought you got to a point where you were like okay with it.
I think I thought you needed me there, and I truly don't think you needed me
so
there.
that's what I was getting at, because when I finished the race and I was done, I didn't have this euphoric feeling at the end of the race that you were hoping I was going to have. Mm-hmm. I felt accomplished. I felt relieved that I did it. I felt relieved that it was over and that I had achieved this thing. But it wasn't like the greatest high that people were telling me I was going to have. And it also, in that moment, I didn't have the spiritual revelation and moment that I was trying to have. And because of that, and also because when it comes to physical things, sometimes I can just lock in by
You can,
myself.
yeah.
You felt you were not needed, and that's what hurt.
I think for the day of, I believe that you would have been fine.
And in all reality, I would have finished. I
Yeah.
would have done what I had to do because I'm just that type of person. Like,
And I
if
think you
if
would have
something
had
comes
the
up, it is
same,
what it
you would
is. I
have
deal with
missed
it.
me.
Yes,
You would have
very
missed me.
much.
But the truth be told is that you would have made it. It would not have been a struggle for you as it would be. I would feel like it would be the same struggle because you are locked in.
Yeah.
You're not like, and I thought that I was like, oh my gosh, my husband needs me. Like,
Let's
he needs me
clarify.
there.
I do need you.
I know you need me, but I'm saying like, need me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, oh my gosh. And I truly believe that. And it makes me emotional to think about it because that is a hard thing. And I think I was wrong.
You felt like you gave up everything, especially being a good mother, to be with your child when she needed you, to support me when I didn't even need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard. And that was hard for me. I think about that, and I like to tell my daughter that in like her first time in the hospital getting IV, like that was hard, and I think I made the wrong decision. And we kind of like shared on social media what was going on in a time where I was still trying to figure out what to do, and there was some harsh comments on there
Yeah.
which made it a lot worse.
That was tough. The question of should we even share this? Because we share a lot. We share a lot on social media, and it was a question of should we even share this? And the reason why I told Lexi that you may not want to is because she was in a very raw state of emotion. And when you're in a raw state of emotion about something, and then you add in 300 comments about people's opinions about that, that can become daunting.
Yeah.
But you did.
Yeah, it did.
And it didn't help.
It did not. Do you think I was wrong?
I can't say you were wrong. All I can speak of is that I feel guilt for asking you to stay.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Who thought I'd be tearing up on the first podcast?
I know.
Yeah, I think I felt guilt. I think I still feel a little bit of guilt.
Yeah.
Because I asked you to stay. I also gave you room to make your decision. I said,
But it's hard to make a decision when you tell me what you want, and my mom and our moms stayed with Aza to the point where they were out the whole time, and all I could think about was like,
is she questioning where's Bobby?
I should be there with I should.
It's okay.
I felt like a really bad mom, and I don't always know the answer. Like, I remember a friend of mine, she called me, and she had no bad intentions, but she's also an influencer, so she's seeing everything that's happening. And the first thing she said, "Girl, I would have left him. I would have been with my man. I would have been with my kids." And I just immediately busted out in tears because I should have. I felt that, and I didn't know how to handle it. Both of our moms, like, she's doing great. She's fine. Like, just stay there, Lexi. Just stay there. But I know in my heart that I did not want to be there, and I know that Brian would have been fine.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh.
I thought I was giving you space to make that decision. I told you I'm going to be okay regardless. Yeah. I said, I will be okay regardless. You can go and I will not hold anything against you.
Yeah.
I will not feel hurt. You can go be with our daughter. But if you ask me what I want you to be here with me.
Mm-hmm. That didn't really give me space.
And I understand that now. Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't easy. And I think it's one of those conversations of What do you do? How do you handle it? And then how do you I know that I need to forgive myself and I know that I need to move forward from it. And I do feel like that I could not come to the terms with how I really felt then, but I can come to the terms of it now. And I was afraid to admit that to you back then because of everything that was going on. Yeah. But I can honestly say, like, this is where I was at. I will say that this opened up a lot of conversation for us this year. And I honestly think that's part of the reason why we had a better end of the year, because there was a lot of us learning how to be parents in seasons that we have never been in, learning how to support each other. When do we support each other? When do we, we trust that each other has it? There was a lot. And so 2023 was a little wild.
It was wild. But as I look back over the course of our marriage and the years that we've been together, though, I can say that some of the best seasons we've ever had were always following a tough season.
Yeah.
2020 was the hardest year of our entire marriage, right?
Yeah.
What was the best year of our entire marriage?
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Was the greatest year of our marriage.
Was that Maldives?
That was Maldives, girl.
Oof.
I'm not saying that's why it was the best year.
It was a good year. It was a good year. I ain't about to hold you. Woo! I had a flashback from Maldives.
I had a couple.
Outside. Okay, go ahead.
So when you look at it, though, like the conversation that we had at the end of 2020 in front of this fireplace that took like 3 hours to have because we broke down all of the hurt and pain that came from what happened in 2020, launched us into a place of healing, of understanding, and then action, implementation of these new understandings and level of communication, intimacy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We had more tools to work with now. We knew what each other needed. We knew how to respond, how to address things, how to move forward. And we went into a season where it was the happiest of our lives. So I look at that and I'm like, you look at the back half of this year and did the same.
I agree. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I want to go through any more difficult seasons to be happy, but some of these were critical in my mind to allow them to get to that point, to learn from it.
I will say this got pretty deep.
This got deep.
Yeah.
It's in the title. I feel like we owed it to people to have a good, deep conversation.
I wasn't expecting to cry. But thank you guys for watching our potentially second podcast. I don't know. We'll see. But don't forget to follow us on Instagram _the_CoLife_, TikTok the CoLife, and YouTube the CoLife. And we will talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.